Good morning. Welcome to Newburgh and this wonderful brewery and a view of the Hudson River Valley to die for. It's so beautiful. And when you step out on that side, more of this later, you get a glimpse of the Tower of Victory. But as always, we begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. So, there's the flag, and here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now, as we always do, introduce ourselves, and then you'll be hearing directly from your saintly mayor. And I'm Barney McHenry.
And I'm Sarah Griffin.
Marcus DeLeon.
Cindy Lanzetta with the Conservancy Board.
Ned Ames.
Devon representing Western County.
Aaron O'Neill from the Office of Parks.
Jennifer Schwartz-Berkey from Ulster County, member at large from the Conservancy.
Fran Bumwell, DEC, representing Commissioner Martens.
Jane Daniels, Conservancy member.
Frank Berkman, Hudson River Boat Yacht Club Association.
Bill Gordon, New York State DOT.
Don Mara, Conservancy member.
Bonnie Devine, Department of State.
Bob Elliott, councilman.
Elizabeth Waldstein-Hart, Walkway of the Hudson and representing Sally Mazzarella.
I'm Jeff Demansky. I'm with Corky Strong Inc., but I'm the NYSERDA representative in the Mid-Hudson Valley.
Steve Rosenberg, Scenic Hudson.
Mary Pratt.
Kevin Burke, Greenway Conservancy. Scott Keller.
Mayor Judy Kennedy. Amy Marcus, I'm First State Development.
Start with you, Joanna.
Johanna Ford with the Historical Society of Newburgh Bay in the Highlands.
Nicole Chalet, the Alexander Hamilton Awareness Society.
Janet Burnett, Washington Rochambeau Route.
Virginia Kaczynski, Glenwood Center.
Jerry Coyle, River Towns.
Ian McDougall, City of Newburgh.
David Everly, President of Beacon Sloop Club.
Chris Kehoe, Town of Cortland.
Megan Tennerman, Orange County Planning.
Susan Roller Brown, Grant Consultant.
Dave Church with Orange County.
Rob Lane, Regional Plan Association, working with Dave Church and Megan Tennerman.
Carl Beard with the National Park Service Rivers and Trails Program.
Rochelle Abram, Village of Wappinger Falls.
Matt Alexander, Mayor of Wappingers Falls.
Nancy Cozine, High Tech LED Systems and Upper Landing Committee, Gibson.
Brittany Brush with Safe Harbors of the Hudson and First Davis. Tricia Henry with Prince Theater, Newburgh. Lisa Silverstone, Safe Harbors of the Hudson, Newburgh.
Lynn Eberly, Mid-Hudson Historic Destinations. Historical Society of Newburgh Bay and the Highlands. The Fishkill Historical Society and Newburgh Preservation Association.
Paul Haleko, Newburgh Brewing Company.
Elise Goldberg, Washington Headquarters.
Thank you, Elise. That's it, isn't it? Yes. Now we're delighted to have Jackie Kennedy, the mayor of this fair city, who we've all...
Judy.
Yes, right?
Judy.
I was saying Jackie, Judy. Judy Kennedy. I'm sorry, darling. You never forgive me? You look as pretty as Jackie Kennedy, but so go ahead.
If he wants to call me Jackie Kennedy, I'm fine with it. You know, I'm just so pleased to welcome everybody here today. Is this not just a stellar place to have a meeting? I hand it to the guys that have really put this together, because it has turned out to be one of the places that everybody wants to come to, and me too. It's a great place, and what a great partnership to have the Greenway here today with this. It's what we really appreciate. We appreciate all of what you're trying to do for the Hudson Valley. We appreciate the efforts in conservation. We appreciate so much the time that all of you are putting in, and in partnership with the City of Newburgh. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the efforts that you're putting in. Thank you for helping us along the way. particularly with the Tower of Freedom, by the way. That's moving along, and I'm really, really glad to be a partner with that. So I just say thank you, thank you. There's not a lot I need to say because you guys have got the agenda. And I'll be bouncing in and out. I've got more than one agenda going this morning, but I'll be back and join you in a little bit. Okay?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Okay. Oh, no. I now am delighted to introduce Paul Haleko, who is the owner of the Newburgh Brewing Company, and we're so eager to hear a little more about what the derivation of this and what's going on.
Good morning, everybody. So, to start, thank you very much for deciding to have your meeting here. We really appreciate it. It's great to always see new faces, not only coming to Newburgh, but of course coming into the brewery. My name is Paul Haleko. I am one of the co-owners here. I do what I like to call the boring side. I do all the business stuff. I'm a CPA, so that's my background. The building you're in right now, it's about 160 years old. When it was originally built, it was part of the William Wright Steamworks. William Wright, not only a prominent figure here in Newburgh, but in the overall steam engine industry. Changed hands a few times, then it became the Newburgh Paper Box Factory. And they were an important business here in Newburgh for, I guess, about 70 years almost. They left the building sometime in the early 80s, and it sat vacant until we bought it. And we bought it just over 2 years ago, and as a business, we've been open for just over a year now. We are a production brewery. That means our main business is manufacturing. We brew beer to be sold to bars and restaurants. We distribute throughout the Hudson Valley, the 5 boroughs, Long Island, and starting in July all the way up to the Canadian border. So our distribution reach is actually quite large for such a small brewery. The room you're in right now, a couple of cool things to point out when we talk about reuse. The tables you're sitting at, they were built by us using reclaimed wood from the building. The building is actually 4 floors. You came in on the 3rd. And when we built the brewery, which occupies the first 2 floors, we had to take out a lot of the flooring. So we saved all the floor joists and we built the tables. We didn't build these chairs, but under the tables you'll see benches. We built those benches as well, the idea being we wanted it to feel like a traditional German beer hall. And that's kind of what we go for here in the tap room. Traditionally, not only here in America, but in Europe, breweries were a gathering place. They were places for people to come together, and it wasn't just for people that were of drinking age, it was for families, it was for everyone. So when we built this space, we really wanted it to be inviting. And we think we've accomplished that. If you come here when we're open Wednesday through Sunday up here, you'll see lots of families, you'll see lots of little kids running around because it is a kind of a warm and inviting space. So thank you again for having your meeting here. The bar will be open directly after the meeting, so I'll be your bartender. You're welcome to have a beer. We also have wine if beer's not your bag, but get out if it's not. No, just kidding. Again, thank you very much and have a good meeting.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
This is what they've done in 13 months. So think what they can do in a few years. This is extraordinary. 11 different kinds of beer.
11 on tap right now. We've done 18, including a beer we brewed specifically to raise funds for the Tower of Victory on Washington's headquarters property. We brewed a beer. It was a Goza. It was a German-style wheat beer. A portion of the proceeds when we sold the beer was donated every month back to the headquarters. So.
And you'll hear more about that, probably more than you want to hear later on. But now we move on to the meeting, and thank you very much.
Great.
Yes. All right.
Mark?
Now, the reason why we have the Greenway meeting here, not just because of the view, but because this place represents a great example of adaptive reuse. How about now? Perfect. The building represents a great example of adaptive reuse and how investment in our historic river cities can really be a touchstone for revitalization of those cities. You know, this is a business, it's creating new jobs. It's also creating beer, which is something that I am very fond of. But there are very few places in the valley that you can get this kind of mix of old industrial history and scenic beauty. And so I'm just happy that Paul and everyone here at the Newburgh Brewing Company welcomed us here today. What we hope to do with this presentation of all the agency funding opportunities that are being offered by New York State is expose you all as board members and members of the audience to the range of funding opportunities that are available that the state has to offer. Because this place and places like it and other projects throughout the valley that support the revitalization of our historic river cities, that support economic development, oftentimes don't happen without state funding. And so this presentation is intended to give you the tools that you need to be ambassadors for all of these opportunities. So as you go out into your communities, you can share the knowledge, you can share the information about what's out there. One of the best things I think Governor Cuomo did when he came into office was really focus and draw attention to regions across New York State. It's something that we at the Greenway have been thinking about for almost 20 years now. How can we get communities and people and organizations work together as a region? Well, the governor really took that to heart when he created the 10 regional economic development councils across the state. And those regional economic development councils have been doing tremendous work in building partnerships, advancing economic development, creating plans of action to bring jobs and bring new businesses into the regions across the state. One of their other roles, and it's a very important role for the regional councils, is to be the single point of entry and sort of the arbiter for projects that are being funded by New York State. Another thing that makes this place so great is its proximity to the railroad. Reminds us that this is still a commercial corridor. He's down. But anyway, the regional economic development councils bring regions together to think about what's most important in terms of economic development, to see economic development in a new way, not just to consider economic development as creating a new distribution center in a greenfield, but seeing economic development as including natural and cultural resource protection, heritage and environmental protection and promotion, tourism. It's really a range of options. It's really a universe of economic development that the regional councils have purview over. They also have a 20% sway and say in projects that are funded by New York State through the governor's consolidated funding application process, which brings together and creates a single point of entry for applicants into the state funding process, which is a much more clear and focused process than has been the case in the past. So the leader, or the grand herder of cats for the Mid-Hudson Regional Economic Development Council is here with us today, Amy Vargas. Your friend and Conservancy Board member Dennis Murray is the co-chair of the Regional Economic Development Council with Len Schleifer from Regeneron Pharmaceuticals, and they're both doing a great job to be the brokers and the champions for this region. But I've invited Amy here to sort of give us the context of the state funding process, the consolidated funding application process, and the Regional Economic Development Council review process. Following Amy's presentation, we will have more specific presentations on agency funding opportunities. So without any further ado, please join me in welcoming Amy Vargas.
Good morning, everyone. First, I want to just thank Mark, because I have to say that out of the very many state agency resource team members that we have, Mark is one of those folks that we count on and oftentimes gets like weird calls at like weird hours asking for weird things. And he always has a very positive attitude about it, so I greatly appreciate that. I also want to thank the other state agency resource team members that are here, because quite frankly, without all of the work that they do, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do on the regional council, and we appreciate the time and effort that they put into the governor's initiative. Mark, I think, sort of gave you a very brief overview. As you know, just about 2 years ago now, the governor created the Regional Economic Development Councils and created 10 councils throughout the state of New York. Here in the Mid-Hudson, we represent Sullivan to Westchester County on both sides of the river. And what we undertook in 2011 was basically a strategic planning process where we went to each of the counties, held a number of different public outreach sessions, looking to see what would be important as the governor mandated from the ground up in terms of promoting positive economic development in the region. And at that time, when we submitted the strategic plan, we looked really at 3 different industry clusters, along with some of the industries that had already been established here in the Hudson Valley. as being those primary areas where we wanted to focus and really try to harness the work that had already been done in the region, and then also figure out methods and strategies which would help to further foster those industries and create jobs and provide investment here in the Hudson Valley. So as we moved into that process, the other thing that we did with the strategic plan was that we looked at that time for different projects that would align themselves with the plan. So amongst the clusters, they included advanced manufacturing, information technology, the life science companies here in the Hudson Valley in that particular cluster. It included at that time some distribution companies, financial professional services, those areas where we already had a really strong hold in the Hudson Valley, again, from Westchester up to Sullivan. We looked for a number of different projects and found that we didn't quite find everything that we needed. And so in 2012, what we ended up doing was looking at the way in which we had organized the plan. Because if you have read the 2011 strategic plan, then you know that for all intents and purposes, everything including the kitchen sink was in the plan, which was good, but then it wasn't so good in that we really needed to focus and give the council a direction within which to move. And so in 2012, what we embarked on really was a reorganization of the plan. And so while we're still looking at IT, advanced manufacturing, and the life sciences as being those industry clusters that we want to continue to harness, and again, the established businesses, professional financial services, distribution, and others, we also, in line with the governor's 2013 State of the State address, look to begin to provide some integration into some of the other industries that ultimately were creating jobs in the region. And so healthcare, for example, we took from being one of the established businesses that we wanted to foster, actually moving it into what we affectionately call our red circle, which is part of the life sciences now and part of the industry clusters that we ultimately want to help foster and grow within the region. The other area that we wanted to focus on in 2013 that was alluded to in the 2012 reorganization was tourism. And as you know, the governor in his State of the State address and then subsequently in the Tourism Summit has basically focused on tourism as one of those areas that we wanted to make sure we provided a lot of support and resources to, because ultimately we're creating jobs in that particular industry. And so we wanted to be at the cutting edge, and the governor wants certainly to be at the cutting edge in terms of growing tourism, not just within the Hudson Valley, but within the entire state of New York. In 2012, unlike in 2011, one of the things that we did was we put out something that's called a call for priority projects. And the significance of the call for priority projects was that rather than just try to aggregate or try to glean out some really critical projects out of the consolidated funding applications that we were receiving, we actually went into the community and said, okay, if you think that you have a transformative, great project that will bring great investment into the state of New York and also create jobs, then we want to hear from those project sponsors directly. The key to the call for priority projects, and I'll explain the consolidated funding application in a minute, is that it's not the application for funding. It is the application for an endorsement. And the endorsement of the quote-unquote priority project status is critical for two reasons. One, it highlights that particular project as being a priority in the regional council and amongst the regional council members. And I can assure you that they put an awful lot of time and effort into not only reviewing all of the proposals that come back to us for the call for priority projects, but then also the consideration of which ones are going to actually be named a priority project. And so last year in our call for priority project, we received 68 different applications from throughout the 7 counties. Of the 68, 22 ultimately were deemed to be these transformative, region-wide priority projects that the council wanted to endorse. Remember, part of the reason that we're doing this is because we're in the middle of a competition every year, right? And so in the first year, the deliverable was submitting this strategic plan, and the goal was to win something in the neighborhood of $40 million in capital grants, which we wanted to bring back to the Hudson Valley. We weren't necessarily successful in the first year, although we did bring back in total about $70 million in capital grants and different funding opportunities from all of the different state agencies through the consolidated funding application. In 2012, we were successful, and we were named one of the best of plans in the state of New York. And what that resulted in was the award of $25 million. How does that relate back to the priority projects? Well, the award that you win ultimately gets distributed amongst those priority projects. So we won $25 million, and just under $23 or $24 million went specifically to
And for the business part of the meeting, I want to reintroduce Chairman McHenry to open up the council meeting.
Sarah?
What?
Either one?
Either, whichever chair.
All right. Well, I think what we're first going to do is just look at the agenda for both the Conservancy and the Council, as well as the National Heritage Area, to see if there are any adjustments, any board member comments. We also, actually, we do have an addition that we wanted to add to the Conservancy agenda, which is the water trail designation for the town of Cortland. Or is that, what is it? The water trail designation?
Water trail designation for the town of Cortland.
Yeah, okay. So, any other comments to the agenda? Then I think we'll probably try to go a little quickly, but there's some really great things going on, including the passing of the budget for the Conservancy and the Hudson Valley National Heritage Area. So with that, do you want to start with the Council?
But don't you want to do the minutes?
And we do need to actually approve the minutes. So I will call for a motion to approve the March 13th minutes. Bob and Kevin, do we have any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Then that motion is approved. The minutes are approved. I'll give it to you then, Bart.
Now we go right into the council meeting.
Would you like the microphone?
Okay. All right, now we're into the council meeting, and we need a resolution, Mark, for the Orange County Compact and the Greenway Community Grants. You've heard a lot about these. We've gone through many of them, but the Orange County Compact is the 5th county, and this has been over the last 5 years, I guess. It's really working, surprisingly. And Orange County was, many months ago, as I go back to the beginning of this, a place where the sorts of things that we talk about here were not appreciated, and trying to be delicate about it. And now they're part and parcel. Right? You've seen all this happen. All right, Mark.
All right. Well, the resolution in front of the Greenway Council is to adopt the 5th Greenway Compact in the Hudson River Valley, Orange County's Greenway Compact. At our last meeting, the board designated itself as lead agency for seeker review, so we're also going to adopt the negative declaration for that seeker review, complete the seeker review of the Greenway Compact. It's a milestone, and I'm pleased that Rob Lane from the Regional Plan Association, who worked on the plan for Orange County, and Orange County Planning Commissioner Dave Church, who is also here today to witness the glory that the council board will rain down on the county of Orange by adopting this compact plan. And Megan Tenorman also, who was a lead point person for Orange County. I think after the Greenway adopts this plan, the county will take it to the county board for their adoption, and then both the Greenway and the county will work together to bring this out to the municipalities so they can start working together and start incorporating the principles of what I think is a really great really great tool for communities to think about how they can work together and how they can design their communities better. So the resolution...
Let me get a single resolution, because we should move on.
Yes, it's a single resolution to adopt the compact, to accept the secret findings, and to accept the negative declaration. Fran? Fran moves it. Second from the council member. Linda Von Raab. Thank you.
All right, now, that's done, and let's go on to those...
Well, we have to vote on it.
Okay, I'm sorry, yes. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Those opposed? Okay, Mark, on to the grants. That's the money.
Grants are the best part of the job. People always show up when you have money to give. And we did have a representative from the Village of Wappingers Falls here, but he was called away on other business. That was Mayor Matt Alexander. But as Bonnie mentioned, the Village of Wappingers Falls is a village that has adopted a local waterfront revitalization strategy. They come to the Greenway Board and ask for funding to actually incorporate the principles of that strategy into their local zoning and subdivision regulations. We're suggesting that the council award them $7,500 to do that work.
Okay,
We'll plow right through with Pine Plains.
you just keep going.
Okay. Town of Pine Plains in Dutchess County, a Greenway community in the eastern part of the county that has never come to the Greenway for a grant before. They have a local group to come together in the town, and they're working on a trails and bikeway concept plan. And as you know, trails and bikeways are a thing that's right in our heart of hearts at the Greenway, and we are suggesting that we fund that planning process at the $7,500 level. The next one is the town of Red Hook, also in Dutchess County. That's been a sort of poster child for the Greenway principles and what we're trying to do with the Greenway. They want to do a townwide historic and scenic resource protection survey, and they want to amend their zoning ordinance to reflect new provisions to help protect their historic National Register Historic District in the town. We're also recommending $7,500 in funding for that project. And the final one follows up on the council's action to adopt Orange County's Greenway Compact, and this is the first grant that we will award the county to help them implement their compact strategy. So again, working with the Regional Plan Association, the county plans to post their design manual that they crafted for their compact strategy online, and in doing so, they hope that it can be a tool not only for the county communities to use, but also for communities throughout the Hudson River Valley to use. I think strategically also for the council and for the compact project, it really gives us another mechanism to connect these principles and to advance the Greenway Compact in other communities and other counties in the rest of our area. So the Grants Committee is recommending funding for that project at $12,500. And Dave Church and Rob Lane are here if you want to say a little bit about that project, or...
And Megan Tenorman again, who also kind of worked on. So very quickly, the idea, I think some of you may have seen the paper document, which we're also going to make available very shortly on all of our websites. It was a sort of internally cross-referenced thing where you could go between different place types in the Hudson Valley to details and implementation strategies. And it lends itself very much to a kind of a web-based thing where you could come in and click on a detail and see how that might apply in your community. And I think the idea is to sort of try to build a kind of community of interest around the website, encourage people to submit ideas, other details for things, and to use it, as Mark was saying, as a kind of forum for all of us to share best practices. So we do, David and Megan and I always saw it as something that was more than just the Orange County Design Manual, and this will be hugely helpful in getting us this resource set up for the Hudson Valley. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Rob.
Well done.
And now one call for vote for all?
Yeah, we can wrap this up. Okay, now you're going to do the your Cherry Hill thing separately?
Yes. That's
Why?
Conservancy.
Oh, all right. Okay. Okay. Now, you heard Mark describe these grants. The grant committee, your grant committee, has reviewed actually twice these grants, and and the grant committee approves them. So I would like to have a motion to approve the grants that you just heard described. May I have a motion? Mr. Elliott? Somebody who's second? Okay. Now, we have motion to approve. It's been seconded. Would you please indicate by saying aye if you approve these grants? All in favor? All right. Okay. All those opposed? Mark, you're on.
All right. Now it's time for Sarah to open up the Conservancy meeting.
So sure. All right, so we now turn to the Conservancy portion of the meeting, and we will be first starting with the budget. Hopefully everyone has had a chance to review it. You'll see that it actually includes, on that one document, it has the Conservancy budget and the National Heritage Area budget. We'll just be looking at the Conservancy portion of it. I think Mark can probably answer specific questions. I'm always amazed when I look at these budgets, how much the Conservancy is able to accomplish with a fairly lean budget. The Finance Committee looked at it very carefully and has recommended its approval, but I would like to open the floor for any questions on that budget, as well as let Mark, if you'd like to describe anything specifically.
I'd like to just thank Scott Keller, who is our agency's accountant and who helps tremendously putting together the budget. This year, for the first time, we've melded the National Heritage Area budget and the Conservancy budget. The Conservancy had always been on the state fiscal year, the National Heritage Area had been on the federal fiscal year, which really, actually, I think was a process that turned Scott's hair gray, trying to maintain that accounting protocol. So this year, we brought them together in one. The Conservancy will be voting on the Conservancy portion of the melded budget, and then both organizations will be voting on the National Heritage Area portion of the budget. You'll notice that we have an allocation in there for the unexpected but pleasantly surprising National Heritage Area appropriation that we did receive in 2013 through the continuing resolution of $435,000. The funding hasn't been programmed yet, so you'll see it in the revenue and you'll see it in the expenses. So if you had any questions about that, that's what that means. We will bring an amended budget or a work plan to the Conservancy and to the Council once the money has been programmed for adoption. So if you have any other questions about the budget or any comments?
All right, then we will call for a motion to approve the budget for 2013 and 14. Kevin? A second. Donald? Any discussion? If not, please say aye if you are in favor. Aye. Any opposed or abstention? Okay, that the budget is approved. We will now move on to the Greenway Conservancy grant applications. And would you like to talk about that, Mark?
So part of the mission of the Greenway is to advance trails and trail development in the Hudson River Valley. For the past 15 or so years, Beth, 15 years, we've offered a small grants program. We've offered a small grants program to help local governments and communities plan trails and trail networks in the region. This year, we and the budget that you just passed includes $50,000 for that grant program this year. It's the 15th year in a row we've been able to offer it. These grants are critical in helping communities and local governments plan trails to connect trail networks throughout the Hudson River Valley. So that's what we're planning on doing here. So the budget you just passed included that. And we will be shortly opening up the funding round for those grants through our website. And you will be receiving email applications that we hope you can share with your constituents and the folks that you know that are involved in trail development so they can apply. It's a really competitive grant program each year, and we do expect to see some really good and creative applications. So that's it about the Conservancy grant program. Sure. Oh, no, it's okay. So this is another topic. It's the Bronx Hudson River Greenway Link Study Update. And the vision for the Greenway Trail, obviously, is a trail on both sides of the Hudson River from New York City to Albany. One of the critical links in that trail network that has long been discussed but never been developed has been a link from Manhattan to Westchester. And the folks in the Bronx have been working diligently on a feasibility study and a plan of action to connect Manhattan Island with Yonkers and Westchester County. Now, I know Ned has been involved in the project, and you want to say a few words about the progress of that?
Sure. We're right at the point where the study is about to be presented, and I assume it will be approved. There's some physical barriers that are a concern here. One is getting across Spiked Island, across the Harlem River, and there are two bridges there. One is the railroad track, which under the present circumstances is not available for pedestrians and bicycles. And the other is the Henry Hudson Bridge. And the idea is that this will be done in 3 phases. The first will be a temporary fix, which will just put a bicycle lane on the Henry Hudson Bridge, which is from Manhattan to the Bronx. And then there'll be an interior road network to get you up to Yonkers. And that is fairly straightforward and not hugely expensive. But the ultimate solution is to put an outrigger on the bridge, an additional lane hung off the side of the bridge for pedestrians and bicycles. And that is a big cost item, but it is proceeding in the capital planning. And I would certainly expect it to happen. Also, in the second phase, the whole Greenway path will be put down on the river outboard of the railroad. And this is a huge undertaking because, as you know, the Metrodome tracks go right along the Hudson River with riprap down into the river. But there is space, and there's an extra unused track 6 that could be perhaps devoted to the path, so that there would be the railroad tracks, fence, and then a Greenway path for pedestrians and bicycles, and then the river. The design details have been worked out. The railroad is progressing in its approval of all of this, and so it looks very positive. And that will, there are a few other barriers, but those are by far the major ones. And involve costs totaling probably something over $45 million just to be the expense. That money would come from many different budgets. So some from the Bronx, some from the city of New York, some from the state, and some from the federal government, transportation funds, and other capital budgets.
It sounds like a great project, and certainly one that's going to be transformative. Connecting Manhattan with the rest of the Hudson River Valley in a pedestrian route is something that we've all thought about for the past 25, 30 years, but now it's finally happening, so we're encouraged to see the update with that. I think it may be the result of the fact that Robert Moses hated people, but he loved parks, and these remnants of his building still haunt us today. You want to do the water trail designation?
Well, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have the amendment to the agenda for the water trail designation for the town of Portland. I'd just like to say this represents the 98th public access site along the Hudson River Greenway Water Trail, which starts at the Battery and goes all the way up to Hadley and Whitehall in the northern porches of the Hudson River Valley. And representing the town of Portland, we have Chris Kehoe here. Want to say a few words about the designation?
Just briefly, thank you. The boat launch is located in the Steamboat Riverfront Park in the town of Portland. It's a 30-acre park. We've been developing it for over 20 years with fishing piers and pedestrian trails. We work closely with the Greenway, and we thank you for this designation.
Right. Thank you, Chris. Do we need a vote to designate?
All right, so call for a motion to designate. Oh, Jane, and then Cindy, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, that is covered. Is this the moment, since we're on the topic of water trails, to announce the honor that Scott has
I think it'd be a great idea.
Okay, what? And you nominated him, right?
Is that Scott Keller has been with the Greenway, well, it's been since 1991. Hardly a man is now alive who can remember those days. And Scott has done extraordinary work on the river. The sad thing is, we all look out as you turn out. Do you see anything going? Why isn't the river used more? Well, that's a problem, but it's being used for recreation. Scott has led the way on kayaking in the Hudson, and only yesterday, Parks and Trails New York, which has done so much for the what's that? The Dropkin.
Robin Dropkin.
Robin Dropkin gave you have that thing that you got? Okay. A fantastic plaque. Yeah, plaque. With, about the Hudson, about what Scott has done. So perhaps you would join me in honoring Scott for what he's done for the river and brought honor to the Greenway.
Continue. Well, congratulations. I now turn to the next item, which is has to do with historic Cherry Hill. This is an unusual situation in my tenure here at the Greenway. We have this particular what I'm about to talk about has not come up, but it is an urgent one. And I don't know how many of you know of historic Cherry Hill. It's a wonderful historic site right in downtown Albany in the southern portion. If you ever go on 787, you can see it. It was built in 1787. It had many generations of the Van Rensselaer family. It is incredibly intact. 20,000 items in their collection, 3,000 photographs, 5,000 books, just an incredible assortment of historical artifacts in a city that I actually live in Albany, so I'm fairly new to it, but I've been somewhat surprised at how at the local level there seems to be not as much appreciation for historic resources as there are in the heart of the Hudson Valley. So to have something this intact, this historic in public hands is really quite rare and quite important. The amazing thing is that they received a grant. The NEH, National Endowment for the Humanities, is one of the hardest grants to get. They received a $675,000 grant a few years ago, but it was a 3-to-1 match. They had to launch a $2.3 million campaign, which is a huge amount of money for especially a very small site. They've been incredibly successful, but apparently it's in phases, and they're in their third phase. And as much as they've raised, they are still $170,000 short. They have come to a few organizations to ask, because they have to raise this by the end of July, or else they do not get this money. And so they have come to the Greenway to ask for special consideration. As I say, this is unprecedented, and in our grants committee meeting, we said this really cannot become a precedent because all historic sites need help, and all of us nonprofits. So, but this is extraordinary, and so the grants committee has recommended a $10,000 grant to historic Cherry Hill as part of this match. So I would like to ask, if there are any questions, comments on this, and then call for a vote. Any?
I think you've convinced them. So.
Okay. All right. Great. So then I will call for a motion to approve this. Jane. A second? Kevin? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Well, that's great. We'll be really, I think, Lizelle LaFrance, who is an incredible person. And I'll just say one more thing, that one of the things that she has been so amazing about is that she has been part of something called Albany, Larger Albany, Partners for Albany, which is an effort so much related to what we're doing in the Greenway to bring all the historic sites together. So I think she deserves it, not only for Cherry Hill, but for everything she's doing for Albany. So, okay, that is that, and then we move on to, upcoming events. You see these great, the Hudson River Days, Cycling the Hudson Valley, July 30th through August 4th, and then the Hudson Valley Ramble, 4 weekends in September. So a lot going on coming up. All right, so now we move on to the Hudson Valley.
The heritage area?
The heritage area.
So, heritage area. We've concluded the meeting of the Greenway, and now we go on to the heritage area. That's state.
And
Federal's coming up. Should we start? Elise, where are you? Okay. You've been very patient, and you waited for a long time. Now, if you will turn and look at the corner where Elise is coming around, you will see what she's talking about, which is the Tower of Victory. Now, Kevin, would you pass out those things? This is a project. We have a lot of special projects, and this is really special, and Elise is going to tell you all about it. And you know, she is the lady at the top of the hill for the Washington's headquarters, which was the first publicly owned historic site in America. Right, Elise?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're on, baby.
Okay, thank you. And I will keep it
Speak
short
loud.
because I know you've been here a long time. My name is Elise Goldberg, and I am the site manager at Washington's headquarters State Historic Site. And if you're not familiar with Washington's headquarters, it was one of General Washington's headquarters during the war, the Revolutionary War. He was there 16 and a half months from 1782 through 1783. And that was at the end of the war. A couple of things that he did there, just to give you some background. He created the Badge of Military Merit, which was the forerunner of the Purple Heart. And also, while he was there, he wrote the Orders of Cessation of Hostilities, which led to the disbandment of the armies and the end of the war. 100 years later, for the centennial, Robert Todd Lincoln, who at that point was the Secretary of War, commissioned a memorial to be built at Washington's headquarters to celebrate that. Ultimately, John Hemingway Duncan got the design. He also did the Grant's Tomb in New York and Grand Army Plaza in Brooklyn, if you're familiar with that. Also, the bronzes and the statue were done by Richard Randolph O'Donovan, and we are very proud of having the tower there. And if you look out, you can see it, but you can't see the observation deck or the roof that was originally on the tower. Starting in mid-20th century, in the 1950s, there was some storm damage that was done to the tower, which led to the roof and the observation deck being closed to the public. We've also recently, Superstorm, I think they're calling it, Sandy, did some damage. We lost the East Gate. The East Gate fell in. We are in the middle of a capital campaign to raise the money to restore the tower back to its grandeur. Where at this point, between 40 and 50% of the funds have been raised for that tower restoration. We still have a ways to go, but we're almost there. We've started the design part of the project, so we know we're definitely following through, and we'll get the money to do it. And that's starting, so we should have a design within the next few months to get the ball rolling and get the construction going. A couple of things. I do have information about the tower and Washington's headquarters on the table. I am available for questions, but I just wanted to also, for people who may know about the tower, may not have really stopped to read the plaque that's on the tower. I think it says a lot about the importance of it. It reads, "This monument was erected under the authority of the Congress of the United States and of the State of New York in commemoration of the disbandment under proclamation of the Continental Congress on October 18, 1783, of the armies whose patriotic and military virtue our national independence and sovereignty was established." And I think that says, a lot about the importance of this monument to both Newburgh, to the country. And I hope that if you have any questions or want more information about it, you give me a call. And
Now, Elise is, as we said, she's the director of Washington's headquarters, and everything's gotten better in the valley since you've come here. If you haven't looked at your what do you call that, museum building?
Yeah, museum building.
And that's a splendid addition. This is part of the New York State Park system, right. And but this is something special that she's working on, and with your leadership, it will succeed.
Well, a lot of people at the PIPC and the Palisades Parks Conservancy are working on this, so And we're open till 5, so come on by and take a look out the window.
Yeah, this is an area steeped in history.
Yeah.
It really is extraordinary.
Thank you.
And Kevin, you've been working on all this stuff. All right, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elise. That's brilliantly presented.
All right, we talked about the Conservancy budget. Now it's time to adopt the National Heritage Area budget. It was crafted in such a way in anticipating not receiving any funding in 2013. We did a forensic audit of all National Heritage Area funds. Scott did a forensic audit of all National Heritage Area funds, identified all line items, and we were planning on having a budget to spend it down. So that's the budget that you see, but you also see the one line item for the unexpected National Heritage Area appropriation that our friends in Congress helped us secure through the continuing resolution. I think heritage areas were the only programs in the federal government to receive more money than less money, so we're eternally grateful for both Republicans and Democrats in the House doing that. So the heritage area budget includes $435,000 of funding. Of that, the Conservancy gets, which is in the Conservancy budget, an admin fee of $43,500. 10% of $435,000. Smart. Any questions on the Conservancy budget? Heritage area budget.
Heritage area. All right.
Do we need to call for a motion?
Okay, we'll call for a motion. I mean, yes. Who would like to? Okay, Donald and Bob are making the motion. And so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
All right, we'll be following up with the NHA Management Committee to program the money shortly. We're really excited about it. It also looks like we may have an opportunity to extend funding even further, and that's what I wanted to report on. Last Friday, we were enthusiastic about coming together with Senator Gillibrand and Representative Maloney and Representative Lowy at a press event at Boscobel to announce 3 pieces of legislation. One piece would extend funding authorization for the National Heritage Area through 2022. Right now, as you know, our funding authorization expired in 2012. It was extended in the continuing resolution, but this bill would extend our funding authorization for an additional 10 years. All the representatives cited the tremendous economic impact that the Heritage Area program has. Obviously, working with our partners, it's a shared success, all of that kind of thing. But it was very significant and very good to see that level of support from those elected officials. So any chance that you have to thank them for their support, we would encourage you to do so. The next item on the agenda is the Hudson Valley Ramble. The registration deadline for Ramble events, and this is for all your partners, spread the word, is June 17th to be included in the printed material. It's the same deadline for advertisements in the printed material as June 17th. We also have sponsorships available. This year we were pleased to welcome Erie Insurance as a $5,000 sponsor of the Ramble, in addition to the Hudson River Estuary program. We also just secured a $500 sponsorship from the Outdoor Education Association of New York State, so we're excited about that. But there are so many other funding opportunities and sponsorships available for the Ramble. High-profile event, lots of collateral material associated.
And this really is something that the board can help. You know, sometimes the board members have asked, you know, what can we specifically do to help as in terms of a long-term goal of developing more private funding for some of these initiatives. And so I really do encourage everyone to think. I mean, it really does get huge distribution, this booklet. It's also would be on the website. And so it's just such a great, it has such precedence now that, that it really deserves sponsorship. So that's my plug for the board.
All right. Thank you, Sarah. Next item on the agenda is Teaching the Hudson Valley. It's our partnership program with the National Park Service and the Estuary Program and the Hudson River Valley Institute at Marist College. Their annual Teachers Institute is happening on July 30th through August 1st at the FDR site in Presidential Library in Hyde Park. This year's topic is very relevant to all those in education. It's Common Core and place-based education, how you can do both. Common Core is a reality in our educational system now, but we don't want to lose sight that place-based education and connecting people with our resources is really what leaves an indelible mark on people's minds and encourages them to be stewards of our resources. So again, July 30th through August 1st. There's also ongoing Explore Awards that help fund transportation costs and entry fees to historic and natural environmental education sites throughout the valley. teachingthehudsonvalley.org is the website. If you know any teachers that are interested in these programs, I encourage you to share the information with them.
And we should always point out that this is a program that began in the heritage area, your heritage area. And it has been extraordinarily successful because it particularly points toward the history of our wonderful valley. Go on, Mark.
I think it was one of the first students in the Teaching the Hudson Valley program, I believe, was Senator Gillibrand. So you can see it pays clear dividends. Just kidding. Next update in our nature and culture topic is our Tiffany landscape windows exhibit. We're getting very close to launching this exhibit. This exhibit features 14 locations that have tremendous examples of Tiffany landscape windows in and around the Hudson River Valley. Each of the locations will feature a one-pager on interpretation. It will be supplemented by more interpretation on the website. I think it's a really compelling exhibition because it connects the landscape beauty of the Hudson River Valley with art. And if you have not been up close and seen a Tiffany window anywhere, I encourage you to go and check them out. So more to come on that. We haven't launched the program yet, but we're getting close. And the final item on the agenda is the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route. We're continuing to work with the National Park Service. They have submitted to us a draft interpretive plan for about 20 sites in and around Westchester and Rockland counties that mark the location of the French encampments during the Revolutionary War. Hopefully we will have installation of those interpretive markers completed by the fall, but we're still waiting for final design and interpretive plans to be developed by the Park Service and their consultants. And Janet Burnett, who is the head of the W3R initiative in New York State, would you like to say a few words about the project?
Yes, thank you so much. Janet Burnett, I'm the Vice Chair and Executive Director of the Washington-Rochambeau Revolutionary Route Trail Association. We're contracted with the National Park Service to bring the trail to life. That being said, no one in New York State has done more to that effect than Mark and the Greenway, along the lines of securing the funding for the interactive kiosks that the National Park Service is going to be providing. I'd like to invite all of you on behalf of the W3R Association and the National Park Service to the first annual Rochambeau Regatta that is going to be held on September 22nd. We're going to head into and across the Hudson River around noon from Ossining and arrive over in Haverstraw 2 or 3 hours later. There are a number of people here who have been very encouraging and helpful along those lines. Mark, Fran, and especially Jerry Fiala and Frank Bergeman, because Frank is, you know, is the president of the Hudson River Boat and Yacht Club Association. Without boats, we can't have a regatta. And Jerry, with the Hudson River River Towns, is integral because we look to this as an annual event, as an economic engine. Right now, going back to Frank, I think we have about 30 boats casually signed up, 40 or 50 wooden boats, am I right? Kayakers as well. And I want to thank also Clearwater because we expect to have the sloop Clearwater leading the regatta, and we'll make that into a leadership sail. We're going to head over to the Haverstraw Marina, and we'll have a reception at the Hudson Haverstraw Marina. The restaurant there is the Water Club, and there's a dock and dine facility. They're offering free mooring for all the boaters who are involved in the regatta. And I've got the expense for that already underwritten by a private contributor, and I'm getting private funds contributed for the leadership sale as well. September 22nd is in conjunction with Ossling's celebration of Bicentennial, which is basically a 3 or 4 day long event, and I'm about to submit my registration as a Ramble event, Mark.
Great. Thank you, Janet. This all sounds very, very positive. I was at an event at Saratoga Battlefield a couple weeks ago, and that battle resulted in the French getting into the army and spending all their money, and Rochambeau and all the troops that came into this region were actually a direct result of that. It's amazing to see how history ties together in this region. The next on the agenda is my acting executive director's report, and I think the only thing you all received it in email. We're doing a lot of good things. We had an event with the senator. There are lots of pictures in it. So great. But the best thing that I can announce today is that the Conservancy budget that you all just passed included money for performance advances for our Conservancy employees. They have not had any performance advances for over 5 years, so we are pleased to be able to do that, offer that to them this year with all the other MC employees in the state. So it's long overdue and well deserved. So join me in thanking the staff of the Greenway.
And Mark, just one other thing, sir. Yeah.
I can say about Path Through History that the governor was wise to model the outreach component of the Path Through History on the heritage area programs across the state, bringing partners together to talk about their resources. The regions have done that, including the Mid-Hudson and the Capital District regions in our area. They've submitted a heritage tourism vision plan that looks out 5 years about the projects that they will work on. The Capital District plan is posted, and we're working to get the Mid-Hudson region plan posted. Mid-Hudson region will be focusing on creating B-roll and tourism promotion pieces that will help all the partners in the region tell our story and attract more people here. In the Capital District, they're working with WMHT to develop interstitials and videography and B-roll to help them tell their story in the region. Both regions will be receiving $100,000 each for their planning processes. The plans in the regions will also be their blueprint and their template for how partners within the regions can work together, and will also position the regions to be more competitive in the Regional Economic Development Council and CFA application processes. So we're excited to continue to work with them as a partner. I should also mention that the state launched its Path Through History website, paththroughhistory.ny.gov. There you can create itineraries, you can view canned itineraries, you can experience history in a new way, and we're really excited that the governor has given this much attention to New York's history and supporting its resources.
Okay, but the reason Sarah wanted this talked about was because Mark is running this operation.
Well, I was glad to help the governor's office out in working with organizations across New York State. It was really inspiring to hear their stories and see their passion. Having such a focus on the Hudson River Valley, we're not alone in our interest and our enthusiasm for our resources. So it was actually...
Okay, we're very proud of you. This gets near the end of the meeting. We probably should have a motion, which I will accept with that by acclamation, to thank these wonderful brewers for this beautiful spot. And God, I mean, how can you beat this for a view? Really, I mean, it is really just wonderful. It's 13 months they've been at this place. It was just exactly what Sarah, you've talked about for a long time, taking wonderful historic sites and making them usable by the population round about. And so, all right, is there anything else, Mark?
Scott, did we miss anything? No. Does anybody from the audience want to say anything?
Anybody? You've been very patient.
All right, cheers.
Thank you very much. See you in October. Have a nice summer.